I think it's time to go.
From the hills and hollers of southern Indiana to the Lone Star State of Texas, we are the hunters of the paranormal. Truth seekers, mount up.
Hello, truth seekers. We got a few people on here tonight, and we're going to talk about the paranormal and just whatever topics come up, and we're just going to have a good time doing it. Are you guys ready for all this? We got the Undertaker. We got David from Texas, or AKA the Fort Worth Phantom, and we've got Lisa.
Sure.
I hope I don't botch up your last name, Lisa. Almagro. Is that how you say it? Or
Yep.
did I say it right?
You did.
Awesome.
You sure did.
Kudos.
Yep. Although I think that they all call me Feather. I think, right?
The fearless feather.
Yep, the fearless feather.
Awesome.
I like that.
Yeah.
You are
Awesome.
fearless. We know that.
Fearless and kind of dumb at the same time, because I shouldn't be doing half of what I do.
Nah. Then you wouldn't be fearless.
That's true.
The one who drives fear into the dogman's hearts. The fearless
Oh man, I feel honored that we've got the fearless feather and we've got the Undertaker on here. This is so awesome.
Very cool.
This
stuff.
is awesome. I like this platform, this Telegram deal.
Oh yeah, it's
Yep.
fun. I like it. It's very clear.
I do
and
too.
A lot easier. Yeah.
It's very
And it's
easy.
Not a-
It was
not-
scaring me.
Not
first.
about it's not about numbers. It's just about talking
Just
the
talking.
truth and
Yeah.
What-
talking the truth.
And you know-
and not all that. Won't get into
Craziness.
names and all that, but yeah,
Right.
craziness and drama. Everybody knows out there what we're talking about, but
Mhm.
I'd rather have fewer numbers and no drama and enjoy ourselves and
Oh, absolutely.
get that
You know,
message out there to people that can help someone else.
Mhm.
You know, the cool thing about it is it's like a audio chat room. Instead of typing it, we're
Yes.
talking it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no judgment. No judgment. We're gonna have a phone line open too, and
Yeah.
that will be cool.
Cool.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah.
excited.
I think if Lee can get the phone number later, and then I always plug my messenger. So if anybody has an encounter or wants to
Or a
talk, they
question.
can hit me up on questions. They can hit me up on my messenger, David from Texas.
Oh, I love it. That's perfect.
Awesome. Our number is 812. It's 974-0305. It's 812-974-0305. And you can call it any time of the day or night and leave a message, or if I pick it up, then we can chit chat.
Awesome.
Are we live on
Great.
Facebook too?
We're not live on Facebook, I don't believe, are we, David?
I don't think so.
But you
Okay.
do?
We haven't really dabbled with Facebook, but as far
We'll-
as I
we'll,
know,
download it.
Rumble, YouTube and Telegram, and
Okay.
I've noticed the numbers picking up on YouTube and Telegram.
I wish we could figure out a way to do this Telegram deal on a YouTube Live. That would
Yeah,
be
that'd
neat.
nice.
Yeah,
Well,
that would be fun.
My kind of idea was we can do it how we're doing it, and I can share the show on the groups that we're in, and that will just a lot of people already know my pictures anyway, and once they know, oh cool, David's got a little show or whatever, and then I can invite them on for whatever, they can plug
Sure.
their show. It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
everybody's
Even
show,
though-
basically.
Yeah, I was in like 20 something groups. Now I'm down to like 5, I think.
Yep.
I
I'm
don't-
down
I'm not-
to.
I'm not-
4,
like
maybe.
like I was, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I
You
started
find
in
out
one.
real quick.
I started in one of them groups, just checking in on Messenger and this and that. And then one day it was like they were just throwing each other under the bus and
Yeah.
cussing at each other. And I just said, I don't want anything to do with that because I want to come talk paranormal and cryptid. So I just want to stay on the path, stay on the straight and narrow path.
You got it.
You left at the right time because I know who you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about, and we were stuck for like a year in that group, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everything happens for a reason.
You got it.
Yeah.
It sure does.
And we're here now.
Exactly. We're here now.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Miss Tracy, uh, from what I understand, you have a lot of paranormal stuff happening, and you won't even, deny it because it's so true in your statements, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting because I've only had it in my childhood with the Ouija board thing, and then thank God it left because it was like
Oh, right.
something I wouldn't wish on my own, and I wouldn't wish that on my own enemy. That feeling of evil and basically getting told to get out of your own house. That's the feeling I had, and I didn't even mess
Mm-hmm.
with this Ouija board. I was sitting on the sofa, and I
Oh,
knew
Wow.
the
wow.
dangers of it. Hmm.
Wow.
And then that was like the time I told you, like a year later, the blanket got pulled off me.
Yeah, you told me that.
Wow.
Yeah, and then finally we moved out of that house, and nothing else happened. But Tracy, um, tell us a little bit about what happened in your childhood, or what led up to you having paranormal experiences, in your opinion.
Um, Basically, David and I were talking about it, and I didn't really think about it till we were talking about it. But there really isn't a time where my life hasn't existed without seeing things. What I grew up being told was angels and demons, and would see some creatures, but would just not, say anything. And I would see ghosts and things like that, but the religion that my parents taught me, growing up in, basically, if you were seeing anything that wasn't of God, it was a demon. I don't necessarily believe that straight line like that
I
anymore.
totally agree. I
I,
totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
I believe
Yeah,
that there's a lot
I
more
agree.
in the world than that. But I mean, so seeing things when I was little was more. My mom and my biological father was abusive and got me out of that situation when I was a baby. And she married another man, and they only stayed married for 6 weeks. But my first memory as a child was being in that house and seeing an angel, and the angel reassuring me, not through voice, but just reassuring me that everything was okay. Because when I got up and went into the living room, I have memories of that man telling me to go back to bed, that my mother was not home yet, and he was watching me but didn't want me in there, to go back to bed till my mother got home. And I told my mom, I told her smells, I told her what the decor was, and she started crying. She said that was my second husband, and he lied to me and he didn't want you. So she left him. So that's not, paranormal, but seeing that angel in there at a time of need and remembering it, that was my first memory of
Smells is
of
me and Lee talked about this. Not to cut you off, Tracy.
no problem.
Smells is definitely paranormal to me. There's been times where I
Absolutely.
pray. There's been times where I would just be at a loss of faith and at my rock bottom and have like a worse panic attack, like something's going wrong. And my old rent house, I started praying and praying and praying. And the next thing I know, I felt like a warm blanket covered me, and the whole house smelled like my grandmother's barber shop. It's a hard feeling. It's a hard thing to explain what that smell is, like all the hair products. And it took me immediately back to like 1985. And I was like,
Wow.
wow. Yeah, that
Wow.
to me was,
Wow.
Yeah.
you know, I've heard groups I'm not gonna mention names, but I left one of them. I left one of them, and his theory was all ghosts or demons, and I just don't
Mm-hmm.
believe that. I think we have guardian angels that will come and go, and
Yeah.
that's just my opinion. But I'm not gonna judge it, anybody else. Uh, but yeah, back to Tracy. Yeah, it smells definitely. Um, Lee, didn't something that like that happen to you? Cigar smells and
Cigarettes at
gelato,
night.
cigarettes. Yeah, and
I was out.
nobody even smoked.
I was out gathering wood. It was in the wintertime and the snow was falling real pretty. And I was out in the middle of the woods, and all of a sudden I started smelling my grandfather's aftershave. And
Oh,
just,
wow.
yeah, it just permeated the air. And I said, I love you, Dad Birch. and,
Aw.
uh, and then when I come in the house, my wife said she could see a presence standing behind me. Like she can see stuff like that
Oh,
sometimes.
wow. That's
And
awesome.
she said it looked like a mist standing behind me. So I
I could
believe
understand.
he was here.
I could
Wow.
understand it. I could
Wow.
understand if it felt evil or something. That's different. But there was never that feeling. It was like a prayer was answered. If that
Mm-hmm,
makes any
mm-hmm.
sense.
My grandfather was my step grandfather, my grandma's second husband that raised me. And
Mm-hmm.
he died in 2001. And when he died, my aunt and I and a little cousin were eating at a restaurant. I think it was, who cares what the restaurant was called, but my little cousin was still a minor. And I told my aunt, I said, we need to go because Papa just came and told me that he died and Grandma needed me.
Oh,
And I said,
wow.
I told my aunt had this stuff happen to her, but she did not want to be a believer.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay.
so she said, I'm not listening to that. I'm not listening to that. We know he's going to die because he's on hospice and he didn't just die just now. You finish your
Mm-hmm.
dinner and then I will take you back home. And I said, Aunt Debbie, I said, let me go. She tells my cousin,
Yeah.
Jordan, don't let her out because we were in the little round circular booths.
Oh,
And
wow.
uh, anyway, sorry,
Shit.
the
No,
fact
it's
the
okay.
fact that
No, you're fine.
then didn't stop. If you want me to give y'all a chance to talk, I will, or ask questions, but it didn't stop there.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
had a high
wow.
school sweetheart that had a farm in Plantersville, Texas, and he didn't not believe in that stuff, but he didn't believe in that stuff. And he said an audible voice told him that I was going to need him and he needed to leave now. And he was mowing 50 acres of farmland
Oh,
with the weed
wow.
mower. And I have another friend who was not a Christian. She's Pakistani, she's Muslim, and she was in downtown Houston. And it was during one of the kind of holiday things they were preparing for. And she
Oh,
said
yeah.
God told her in an audible voice. So from the other end of town, like an hour away from where the boyfriend was, and maybe in 45 minutes or an hour longer than to where I was. So they started driving from complete opposite ends of where I was.
Oh,
And
wow.
they got there, they said at the same time, and they drove up. We had a long, like, wraparound driveway. They drove up the driveway and were there, but I didn't see them. They had parked and I didn't see them. And
Oh,
I got
wow.
there, and when I saw that Undertaker truck, what is that thing called? A
The
hearse.
hearse? Mm-hmm.
I passed out and both of them were there to catch me. And I'm like, what are y'all doing here?
Wow.
They
That
both
is
had come on the
wild.
show. They both had, so that right there is definitely, but see, that kind of stuff to me is not like a big deal because that's how my whole life has been.
Right. Right. And it's
It's
not.
because you're a not clairvoyant, right? Or
She's an empath.
there you go. Yeah, we talked about that
Mm-hmm.
earlier. I
Mm-hmm.
know, I am too.
Mm-hmm.
I told Tracy earlier. I've probably had 7 or 8 people tell me, "Are you an empath?" And I'm like, "What is that?" It's like
I
they can
think
Mm-hmm.
tell right
Lisa's
off the bat.
also an empath.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had this conversation too.
Lee is, hey, Lee can. I wouldn't want to play Lee in poker, and I wouldn't want to play. And let me tell you what, man, he is the most observant dude. Like I'm telling you,
That's awesome.
he could be like he could be like security of a whole football field and can understand. All right, this dude eats popcorn. That guy has a gun. This dude has cotton candy. I'm like, man. Even his wife said that, and I thought it. Hey, that's awesome though.
Oh yeah,
It's a gift. It's a gift.
Yeah, it is.
I can tell sometimes if somebody's up to no good. I from being a long ways away from them, I can tell.
You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
funny you say that. You know, it's funny you say that. One of my friends, one of my so-called friends at another apartment complex, he was a colored guy, and for some reason he fooled me, thought he was cool, but my fucking dog hated him, and my dog is not racist. Like for some reason he hated this black dude,
Yeah.
and my wife was like, something ain't right, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, babe, nah, babe, he's cool, he's cool, he's cool. Like 2 months
Yeah.
later, yeah, he's the most shadiest backstabbing mup. I'm like, Gizmo, I should have known all along.
Listen to the animals. Listen to the
Yep.
animals.
Always listen to the
Yes.
animals. Yep.
Yes.
Animals know. You know,
You
my
know
Mhm.
cousin.
what? When I take the animals to the woods, they're either going or they're pulling my ass back to the door. They know. They know before anything. Like
Oh, sure.
it's weird. Like even I've noticed even a change in wind, and then all of a sudden they want to come back home, and I'm like, okay, that is weird. And
Yeah. Wow.
they've never done that before in their life. Both dogs want to come home. I
Wow.
That's
mean,
wild. Yeah. That's wild.
I think they can hear things so far that you know, even science has proven. I think it's further than that.
Oh, yeah.
That what?
Oh, I'm sure of it.
Science has
uh,
proven what?
Gizmo, my older dog, he can tell when there's storms like in Abilene, which is like 4 hours away.
That's
4 hours
crazy.
away. He's already shaking and like, and I'll look on the radar. And I'm like, there it is, the storms. He can tell when they're
Wow.
that far away. It's
I
My
crazy.
believe
body
it.
can tell when they're that far away because it starts hurting.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mine too.
yep, I always,
You
every time the dog starts shaking, I was like, I know the storms are coming.
My old boss had like a barometer in her office that had several things on it, and she used to
Oh.
say, "I could tell when you're about to have a problem and have to go home." And I said, "Why is that?" She said, "Because if that barometer drops more than 6 points, you're on the floor almost." And I said,
Yep.
"Wow, that's scary." She
Yeah,
could see it.
That's awesome though
what?
that she could see it.
Wow.
yeah,
That's
that's how my
cool.
You,
mom is. When my mom feels knee pain, it will be raining in like 2 hours.
Mm.
Oh, wild.
She
Huh.
had the arthritis in her knees. Oh yeah, it's definitely. It's not a myth. They can predict the weather for sure.
you know,
So you
there's
have
Yeah, go ahead,
there's
Lee.
a dogs have something in their brain like that is sensitive to earth changes. And
Oh.
Cats
like that,
too.
you know, they can like the animals, they can detect earthquakes and
Mm-hmm.
tsunamis and stuff like that. And whatever that, I keep wanting to say it's hematite or something like that,
It's
but
the
it's
same. It's
something.
the same. It's. I think it's the same thing, Lee, that predicts seizures. It's something
Yes.
that they predict it's going to be dangerous. It could be a
Hmm.
tornado. It could be an earthquake. It could be a
Oh.
seizure,
Mm-hmm.
and they have no way to scientifically like pinpoint what it is. But it's amazing.
I get
Wow.
sick right before a storm. Like if a storm's coming in,
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I'll get deathly sick.
I
Like I was
agree.
out
I love the
fishing.
storms.
I was out fishing one time and with my mom, and this storm came up like out of the middle of nowhere, like lightning and
Well,
thunder,
yeah.
and
If you're
we come
fishing, yeah. If
rolling.
you're in the lake, if you're in the lake storming, that's like
Hmm.
Gilligan's Island.
So
You
we
better
came.
haul ass to the land.
I banked the boat and we got in the truck, and I was just like sweating and sick, headache and sick,
mm,
like sinus pressure and headache.
Oh
And so
no.
as soon as the storm went over, the headache and everything went away. And so the next
Mhm.
day we was out and we was fishing again, and the same thing happened. The storm came in, we run in again, and same thing. I got sick again and sweating, sinus pressure, headaches, like migraine headache. And that thing, once that storm passed over, it was just like I was just normal again, nothing wrong. So I don't know if it was like some kind of a harp, like them using some kind of harp technology, and I was sensitive to it.
Oh,
But
Yeah,
maybe.
mine.
a lot of times, whenever a storm comes now, I still get headaches and kind of sick
A
like
lot
that.
of sometimes those high pressure system
Mhm.
create that atmosphere where you get a headache, but normally not that bad.
Hey, I got a quick question for you guys. Have you guys noticed any booms or rumbling sounds like thunder like the last few days? Have you guys heard anything like that or felt anything?
Yes. Yes,
did,
I
Yeah,
have, but I'm
I
always
had
out in the
too at the
woods,
same
so
time.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I was
Mhm.
outside.
We've been hearing it at night here. And our neighbor was walking across his field. It's been a couple years ago now, but he was walking across his field, and he said there was a great big boom right in front of him, and he didn't know what it was. Like he
Wow.
didn't know where it came from. He didn't see nothing explode, nothing, but it was just a big boom right in front of him.
Oh, that's
So that's
wild.
the only person that I know of that's been close to it. And then one night when we were here, I don't mean to change the subject, but we were our windows were rattling. The booms were so loud and the windows were rattling. So I called the
Wow.
neighbor and I said, "You guys hearing that?" And they said, "Yeah, it's shaking our windows." And so I asked the neighbor guy, I said, "If I come over and get you, you want to go see if we can find out where that's at?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." And so we drove out through the country,
Mm.
and we got halfway down this road, and there was these two old couples standing out in their yard, and they were scared to death because it was rattling their windows. And
Oh,
so
wow.
we go down into the river bottoms, and we get about halfway down into the river bottoms, and I'm thinking that maybe like transformers are blowing up in this little town, little over by us. So we get down in the river bottoms, you could see the lights in town, so we knew the lights weren't off. But as soon as we got down there in that river bottoms, we pulled the truck over because the sky kept lighting up blue, like a electric blue color, and we
Oh,
could hear
wow.
these cannons. It sounded like cannons going off, like on a naval ship, and it was going boom 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 like that, like they was fighting something. It was like there was a freaking war going on up in the air. And
Wow.
then,
You
Oh my
know,
and
gosh.
so the way that it ended was we seen these things like white things like flickering in the, like almost twinkling like stars, but they looked like they were dropping to the ground, like, kind of like if there would have been like fireworks or whatever,
Oh,
kind of
like
coming out of the
sparks?
ground. Sparks, yeah, sparks,
Okay.
like
Oh,
white
wow.
looking sparks. But whatever that was, man, it was lighting the sky up, and it was going boom, 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 like one of those you ever seen those cannons like on a ship that one gun will
Mm-hmm.
go off and back and forth, like I think they call them a Vulcan cannon. They just like, I don't know what kind of millimeter cannons those were, but man, they was rocking it. Whatever whatever was up there, they were
That's
fighting
something.
something.
They can make the weather do certain things to a
Right.
degree.
Right. Yeah. There's weather cannons make that same thing. And also, I believe, doesn't ball lightning also create something similar? Or am I thinking of another, like, you know, atmospheric phenomenon? I
Ball
thought ball.
lightning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, that could have been, might have been, but it didn't look like lightning to me. What was lighting up? It just was lightening up the clouds, or just like the horizon was lightening up blue.
Oh,
It
wow.
was, yeah. You couldn't see any lightning bolts or anything. But see, the area where that was at would been it would have been from Crane Naval Base. It'd be northwest, where between us. So Crane would be southeast of our position, and it was between us and Crane Naval Base. And
Oh, wow.
they have I talked to the people that work, some people that work there, and they had they created the laser designators down there in Crane, and I know they were working on a night vision that could see in color, which they do. They have it now, but they had all kinds of stuff in there. My cousins worked there, down there. My cousin was a heavy equipment operator and a mechanic, and he got to take us on a tour there. And when we went into the facility there, there was this one area, and when we drove down the road, he said, "Okay, where we're going now?" He said, "This area is top secret. We're going to drive by what's called the Black Tower." And he said, "This place is so top secret that if we break down in this vehicle right now," he says, "we have to immediately get out and walk away from the vehicle because security would be right on us."
Oh, I
And
believe it.
and we
Wow.
drove by it, and this Black Tower thing, guys, it looked like an air traffic controller air traffic control tower right in the middle of the woods, and it was blacked out. It was
Wow.
yeah. And that was back in like the late 90s, mid to late 90s, and they had silent helicopters back then in there flying around. And my cousin, I don't know if like semi flipped over or something, but he had to go down and they had to pull him out or do something. And they were hooking up chains and stuff, and this black shadow went over him, and they all looked up, and there was a black helicopter silent hovering right above them, and they couldn't believe it because they didn't hear it, and they couldn't hear nothing coming off of it.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow. Yeah.
That's
so they
scary.
Oh yeah. And
Mhm.
here's another thing about that area, Crane. I worked with a doctor that told me that they had done a like residency or whatever down there at a hospital, and they talked to people that were from the naval bases, like people that would blow up ammunition and munitions, and
Mhm.
she had all kinds of clients that did different things. Anyway, they told her that there was a Bigfoot type creature inside Crane Naval Base there, and because it's a great. I say naval base, but it's like a forested area. There's not to my knowledge any water in there. I
Mhm.
think there may be a lake in there, but and who knows if they have an underground submarine facility there. I don't. They could have, but anyway, they refer to it. The people down there refer to it as the wood ape instead of a Sasquatch. They call it the wood ape,
Oh. Oh,
but
wow.
people describe it as looking like a Bigfoot. And
Really?
my cousin told me that inside those military facilities like that, they get
Mhm.
crates from all over the world because like they ship, other than Afghanistan, they give all their weapons away, to the Taliban.
Mhm.
But they
Yeah.
bring back a lot of that equipment. And he said that he was working on bulldozers that they had in Vietnam. That's how old some of the equipment was. But he
Oh,
said what
wow.
happens is they crate that stuff up. They put all that stuff in crates, and then when they get there, they open it up. And he said there'll be snakes and
Oh,
animals
wow.
that
No
that will
way.
come out of there. Yeah. And he
That
talked
is
about
so
these.
crazy.
He said he'd see peacocks in there and exotic birds in there that you'd never see here in Indiana. And he said that one time he was there in the evening time, and these things come out, and he said they look like coons, but they
Oh.
were white and black, and they had this red ball on their nose. And the name of those things are called Cootie Mondays or something like that.
Oh,
And
Quadamundis. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yes, and they're down there in Crane Naval Base, but they came in
Wow.
on crates. They stowed away on crates and
That's
uh,
funny.
yeah. So that's how some of that stuff gets in those bases is in
Oh,
crates, which totally makes sense.
it
Could you
does
imagine
make sense.
open one up and here comes a Bigfoot running out? Me
Ah,
hungry.
Actually, I think there was
I was so Kentucky Fried Chicken.
you're so funny. Oh my
Kentucky
God.
Fried Peacocks.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they missed that one.
No, I thought
Uh,
there was a story about a loose camel in Texas that people
Whoa.
thought was some kind of weird animal or something, and they kept calling it a Bigfoot because they didn't know what it was, but it was a camel, and they had used it for something like what Lee said, something, it was part of some kind of shipment somewhere, but it got let loose and it survived because it was a camel. But they were calling it all kinds of things. They called it a walking bear,
What the fuck is
Bigfoot.
this? We got a new
Yep.
cryptid. It's a
Yep.
camel.
Yep.
Oh my.
Yep. They blamed everything.
It's a two-hump horse.
It's a 2-hump horse.
Well, what's really funny though, clearly when our indigenous ancestors were here, or when they were more numerous, I should say, they used to call the dogmen, they used to call them buffalo dogs. And
Oh, yeah.
same
Yes.
thing,
I've heard
yeah.
that.
Yes, they had they actually had like several names
Yeah.
before the Dogman came along. And when I first heard Dogman, I wasn't a fan of that. I like the older. I mean, I would rather just say werewolf, but but it's. I mean, I guess it's kind of caught on because of popularity. But when I first heard it, I was like, really, a Dogman? Sounded kind of cheesy.
Right. They couldn't come up with something better. Right. Than dogman.
I'd be happy with Wolfman, wolf creature.
Or something. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
I heard when I heard about the dog man, I felt the same way, David. It's like, oh, I don't know about this, but some of the pictures that they show of the dog man, that will have their hands like hanging down in front of them. You know what I'm saying? They kind of describe them as their hands hanging down. That what reminds me of is a kangaroo. The way a kangaroo,
they can squat up and down fast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, a kangaroo, if it was dark in color, it would almost look like a dog man type thing with the big long tail and the whole nine yards. Yeah, because
/scripted.
If you've ever looked at some of those, like especially the male kangaroos, they're like ripped, man. They got like pecs and 6-pack looking.
And then the arms that kind of dangle down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and their hands are in front of them like that. So that's maybe it's a mix between a wolf and a kangaroo. But I think those.
What, Tracy?
Like a wallaby? I'm kidding. Sorry.
That's a wallaby, a bandicoot.
There you go.
Crash
All right,
Bandicoot.
Crash.
Yeah,
I got my Crash Bandicoot on a time or two. That was a good game.
Funny. Oh,
I have that for the PS1.
Oh.
The PS1.
I have a limited edition PS1 that has a screen still on it because I have motion sickness with a lot of the game systems, and on that little bitty screen, I don't have motion sickness, so I don't play video games except for my PS1 games on my little PS1 screen.
That's hilarious. I love it. I love that.
Hey, we all like to have fun.
Oh yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Like it's not just all about cryptid.
And those were good. Those were good games too.
Yeah, they are.
They were. Yeah, they still are. Oh yeah.
I like best now when they're $3.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you always find Tracy can find just about anything, either free or like only a few bucks. It's like a weird gift.
I just start praying for it, and it comes.
Hey Tracy, whenever that happens, have you ever had the feeling like you knew you were going to find it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're? Because when I was a little kid, I was the same way. The thought would even come to my mind. I'd say, I'm going to find some money today, and then I'd just go out looking, and there'd be like $10 laying in the ditch or $5 laying alongside the road or something.
Oh wow,
that is cool.
Yeah, Tracy finds just about everything, which is why whenever I say I need something, she's like, "Don't worry, I'll get it." I'm like, "Oh my god!" And she does. She'll get something. It's crazy. Crazy.
It may not be perfect, but it'll be what you're supposed to have.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, Lord, I want a dehydrator. Instead of getting a dehydrator at the Goodwill, I found a microwave dehydrator. I'm like, that's not quite what I was thinking, but thank you.
Right.
Hey,
it's true.
That's awesome.
Hold on, y'all.
Oh, what you putting on? Cologne?
Makeup.
Makeup?
I know what you're doing. You didn't leave it in
Just
your
kidding.
hair, in your beard hair.
No,
Yeah.
no, I had a hair. I was just getting off.
Just don't scratch your butt and flush the toilet, and we'll be all right.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
That's hysterical. Jeez, David. Good Lord.
It'd be like this.
Let me see. Go.
All right, y'all. All right, y'all. Hold on. There's ramen noodles, but I'll eat them.
No names in there. Don't be naming no names.
Are you
You're
going?
Post on there.
Hey, are you going? Are you going to put the dog man on the noodles?
No, but he's gonna glue it into stick figures and call it a, what do you call that? An
Shit.
action figure.
Shoot.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like a G.I. Joe.
He needs all Dave needs to do is to get an Undertaker, figurine and paste
Oh,
his
yeah.
face.
No figurines for me.
Be a
I
lot
saw
cheaper
enough
that
of
way.
that. I saw enough of that on another channel. Kind of made me lose my appetite. Actually.
You guys are so funny. Oh my God.
Hey, I'm not saying any names.
No, I know. It's funny because it's true.
Hey, but anyway, off
That's so
topic.
funny.
Me,
Yeah,
Lee and I have been talking missing 411.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah.
I have a theory. Hear me out.
Okay.
What if, just what if missing 411 is government controlled by their own cryptids?
Yeah.
Oh, like like they escape and so they're out there
They're
just.
using their own instead of having to get caught by humans.
Oh.
Because if they use the cryptids, what easier way to hide them? No one believes them.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And then they got
hitmen.
and then they got the bodies for the know
Yeah.
what,
Mm-hmm.
the harvesting, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I don't say the A
That's a
word
good
on
way
here
to.
anymore.
That's a good way to put it. The harvesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was
Exactly.
gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a
Saying it,
thought that
not
ran across
saying.
my mind because just cryptids get blamed for it, but what if they're like getting
Mm-hmm.
what if
Mm-hmm.
they're like getting forced? You know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
yeah.
Like they have the chips in their head.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's
No, not only
interesting.
that, just by
Okay.
who knows? They could kidnap a family member. They could be like, all right, I'll do this to your family member. If you
That's
don't do
true.
this, the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. It goes both ways.
If
But
they're interdimensional and if they're smart and all that, it could also be like an exchange thing. Like they
oh.
they say, here's your
Mm-hmm.
150 dogman families, and y'all have to listen to them, and then they send 150 human families over there. Y'all have to listen to them.
Oh.
They're telling.
That's that's actually a
Or
interesting. Yeah.
what if they're bypassing the UFO method and just going cryptids to avoid the getting caught by UFOs and all the sightings.
Yeah,
Just doing it
that may
that
be
way
why
on
they're
missing
fixing to, like,
411.
they're starting to release the UFO information, and so now they're
Mm-hmm.
like, we're not going to do it that way anymore. We're going to do it this way. That makes a lot of
Oh
sense.
yeah, they already got ways right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you figure,
Oh, let's send 48 dogmen and a dozen Sasquatch in these woods, and nothing's gonna live
right. Oh,
or
wow.
come back, come back,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
come back alive maybe, but it's just sad. It makes me wonder. I think the last I looked, it was like in the billions that people are missing, or is it like
It's
100
probably,
million in 411?
who knows? And the thing is that they range in ages, don't they? At first, it was like
Yes,
only a certain age, and
babies,
yeah,
babies all
yeah.
the way to like 30s, even
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
older now,
What about
and
the
like
native?
clothes being all weird folded up. That's strange too.
What
Yeah.
about the Native American girls that's come up missing on the reservations here lately? You know
Oh,
what I'm?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's all over all over the
Oh,
place,
yeah.
but it's like not talked about.
No. It's missing and murdered indigenous women.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been
It,
happening since the 50s, since
yeah,
before.
and it's like it's a business or something.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Oh, that makes
Ain't
sense.
that something?
It
I heard a
is.
story. I heard a story about the clothes thing. Like how their clothes are folded up or whatever.
Yeah.
The story that I heard was about these guys that were mountain biking, and they were going. I think they were hiking or mountain biking or doing something, but one of their buddies got ahead of them and was going up the mountain before they,
Mhm.
before they got up there, and so he was up ahead of them a little ways, and they basically I take it he said that he started feeling hot and he started taking his clothes off and was like folding them up and
Mhm.
putting them down, and by the time they got up there, his buddies got up there, there was a Bigfoot hitting him with infrasound, and it was making him do that.
Oh,
What? Get
It was
get naked? Or yeah, like lose the.
like
Oh.
taking his clothes off, and yeah.
Mhm.
Whoa.
Oh,
wow.
that's
And
interesting.
his buddies, when it saw his buddies coming, and then it took off, and then whatever that infrasound or whatever it was doing to him was gone,
Mhm.
and
Oh, wow.
they basically saved him.
Mhm.
But I can't
Wow.
remember where I heard that from. I heard that a long time. I've listened to so many of those stories.
Yes, I know. They all kind of blur together after a certain amount of time. I've said the
Hmm.
same thing more than a few times. I'm like, I don't know where I heard this, you know,
Oh
but I
yeah,
know it's true.
Like
yeah. It's
I know I read this in a paper from the 1800s from the Harvard Library, but if I went back to find it again, I couldn't find it. That doesn't mean I didn't read it. That just means I
Right,
can't find it.
right. No, it's true.
that's
No,
right.
that's a total
I
complete
wasn't
and
thinking
total
when I was
aside.
reading this that I was ever going to have people question what I
Oh,
read.
question.
If you're just telling
Oh,
a story,
yeah.
you're just telling a story.
Right.
But
Yeah, no, I
anyway.
actually, do you guys, well, you guys know that I actually had the great fortune to hold in my hand Samuel Johnson's Tatler uh, paper from like early London, and it was kind of like the Bridgerton gossip news, that they have on Netflix kind of thing. But
Huh.
I held it, and it
Wow.
was I got to study it, I got to smell it, to touch it, to and read it, and it was awesome because that's what I really enjoy reading. So I'm a literature major, and I was
Oh,
yeah, it was awesome because who knows whose hands that paper touched before I got to it in at university. I mean, you know what I mean? Like you just
That's amazing.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's actually really cool, and it gave they talked about all kinds of crap that was going on in London at the time. Like so and so was marrying to blah blah blah, and so was having an affair, and that kind of crap.
oh, that's crazy. When that was all there was to sit around and do, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Hey, I'm not trying to knock any religions or anything, but the first, basically the first internet would have
Hmm.
been the Catholic confessionals,
Oh, most definitely.
and you know
Rude.
how the Catholic Church could have used that information to buy farms because they knew such and such was going to be getting a
Oh,
divorce, or
Hmm.
there's turmoil going on here, so let's make this thing happen so we can get this. You see where I'm going with that?
Oh
It's
yeah.
almost
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah.
the first intelligence agency, I should say, instead of the internet, but
Oh no,
yeah,
most
the first
definitely.
intelligence gathering. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was actually one of the interesting parts about that paper was that the church at the time, both Anglican and Catholic, were totally against people reading this, and
Oh
here
Oh,
they
wow.
right.
were, yeah, passing it around. It was almost like an illegal um, thing,
What is
to
that book
read and
called? The
enjoy.
slam book. It was a slam book, if you will.
Yes, yes, exactly. Like a yep. Hmm. Isn't that wild?
The trip from the
Yeah.
high school girls club.
Yeah.
Slam.
So how did you get to do that, Lisa?
So it was in college. I went to this great university that happened to have a partnership with, I believe, I want to say Oxford, but maybe I don't know. You know how these universities have, like, partners or sister universities in another country.
Right.
So essentially, I think that's what that was. But they were able to get a copy of this paper, and they had it down in the archives. And because I was a literature major, um, my favorite, though, or my specialization really is medieval literature and stuff. I got to hold
Awesome.
all these, yeah, I got to hold all these awesome, parchments that some monk spent like 4 years writing, and you
Hmm.
can see like codes and things they would write to each other, and so it was awesome. That's kind of how that happened. That, and I practically lived at the library. I loved reading everything, so every semester my goal would be to read all the books on one floor and then move on to the
Wow.
next one.
A
Yeah.
woman?
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
Jesus Christ.
there were 7 floors, and there were 2 subfloors. All the special stuff was down in the subfloors, so down, basically like having 2 basements, essentially. But there were 7 floors, and so that's what I did. I every year I would, or every semester, excuse me, I would go and I would read, you know, this whole section of books, and then I would move on to the next one. And so it was a lot of fun, but I know I freaked out a lot of people that are just there to either party or just waste time or sleep in the library, because I would sit, yeah, one day I would have a book about the many wives of Henry VIII, and then like 2 days later I have the Encyclopedia of Serial Killers in front of me. So
I
that
can
was,
see you reading that.
oh God,
True
yeah,
crime.
oh, totally. I had such a blast scaring the crap out of. There were some freshmen at the time who had found out about the 2 subfloors, and I stopped them on purpose. And I said, "Do you know about the Donner Party? Well, if you don't, let me tell you." And I scared, and the librarian was like, "Don't listen to her. Run away, run away." Yeah, but that's how that happened, and I have to say that was one of my bucket list items, was to be able to hold something that old in my hand, and know that someone put so much care into it to get whatever it was in their mind. Same thing, like I don't know if you've heard of Samuel Pepys. If you have not heard about him, he wrote some dirty things in his diary, and then he published it. And yeah, and he almost got into major trouble. I mean, he even talked about that he was having an affair with a local prostitute there in London, and he wrote all about, he described her from top to bottom and what
Wow.
venereal diseases she had, but that he loved being with her, so he just kept, he kept going to her. And the church was like, "Are you serious? Like, what are you doing?" But he was like, "Yeah, this is who I am. Deal with it." And so that's the one I really want to sit and like hold in my hand and just giggle as I read, the whole thing. So yeah, but reading's my thing.
Wow.
That's what I like to
So
do.
so they just thought he was going out and playing poker.
Oh yeah, right. Well, I think back then the game was hearts, but yeah, like the game of the day was hearts, or whist. I
Uh,
believe is the other one, whist.
that's
Wow.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's very cool.
Wow.
I was blessed to enjoy. Um, I was able to win a scholarship in order to attend university because my parents were both teachers um, in public school system, and so that's how that worked out. And I, I always say, I'm so glad I had the chance to do it, because ages ago, anyone of color, but women especially too, couldn't be sitting in a library reading a book and just enjoying it, for the sake of enjoying.
You were
Oh
the
yeah.
double minority.
Yep, double minority. That's right. Yep.
Well, you
So,
can tell you've read a lot of books, Lisa. You're very well spoken.
Yeah,
oh,
you are.
thank you. And you know what else though? Get ready for me to blow your mind. English was not my first language. So,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So, yep, English was
Well, I
not
think
my
I knew
first
that
language.
because Spanish was your first language, right?
So, yeah, it was a mix of Spanish and the Taino language. And I didn't figure out till much later that there was, uh, it sounded, honestly, now that I'm relearning Cherokee and I'm doing all that stuff, it almost sounded like Cherokee because my great grandma, her skin was reddish, it had a reddish hue, and her eyes were the color of copper pennies. And she spoke a different language that only my grandpa could speak to her. Um, and I could understand it, but I couldn't speak it. So, it's just interesting that all these cultures somehow met in the same place. But yeah, it was a huge mix of things. And then I learned English because my dad had grown up in the Bronx. So that's how that happened. So
Oh,
when I get
cool.
real, yeah, when I get really mad, the New Yorker comes right out, and sometimes I'll just start talking in a different language, and then like my kids will be like, "Hey, switch back, switch back. I don't know what you're saying." You know. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun. I'm glad. I actually my kids just figured that out the other day too. They were like, "English wasn't your first language?" And I was like, "Isn't that trippy?" And they were like, "Yeah." Like, wow, okay. You know,
Wow.
I'm kind of a star now to my kids because
Hey,
You're a
oh
rock star.
yeah. Hey, Elisa, did you notice any similarities in words between the languages,
yes,
or is there?
yes, major ones. For example, in the Taino language, which people always lump us all in with the Arawak Indians, but we're different in many ways. But it's all, it doesn't matter. Like I told you, it doesn't matter. Once you're indigenous, you're cousins with everybody. It doesn't matter what what tribe anyone's from.
You're all related.
Yeah, exactly. We are all related, and that's the truth. But so in our language, if I want to say my name is, you know, Lisa, I would say Lisa Daka, and in Cherokee it's Lisi da Guadoa. So there's a similarity that they both start with that same root, the da,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that k sound in the middle of it too. So that part is interesting, and who knows? I picked it up so fast that even our teacher, because Tracy takes Cherokee 2 with me, he always asked me if are you sure you're not Cherokee? And I'm like, "Yeah, who knows, maybe I am, I don't know, but I understand what you're saying, you know."
They say that the Native Americans say that we're all one,
Yep,
so
that's
that
true.
means share the same bloodline.
That's true. That's true.
Mm.
They
I
do
heard
say that.
I've heard him say that like one of the reasons why they used to like cut their hand and do the blood thing where they put their hands together.
Hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? I can't think
Yep,
of what they call
The
that.
blood brother.
it's a
Blood
blood
brother.
sibling. Yeah, a blood
Like yeah, like
sibling ceremony. Hmm.
yeah, and then like if they like, I take it different blood will repel, but like the same blood will mix good, but like
Hmm. Hmm.
different bloods, like so like if they did that and it repelled, or it didn't mix the right way, then they knew that that was bad,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
of a bad bloodline basically.
Hmm. Oh yeah, like an enemy as opposed to
Hmm.
a.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
hmm. Oh yeah.
That's I always wondered why they did that, and then I heard that story about the bloods not mixing right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's like
I
like the RH factor in a baby.
Yes.
Like the mom,
Yes.
how they, yeah, like they're not compatible, so they have to get rogam shots so that
Yes.
the babies won't get. Yeah, it's that's what it reminded me of when I heard that.
Oh wow. Actually, and what's something really interesting? So the U.S. Invaded Puerto Rico, and that's how they came into control um, the country. And so my grandpa would actually teach me um, language and all of that, but he would shut all the windows and lock all the doors because up until I believe it was 1980 or somewhere in that general vicinity, it was illegal to
To
do
speak
that.
that language.
Yep,
Oh my
That's
because
God.
sad, isn't it?
yeah, the U.S. wanted us only to speak uh, English or Spanish, which is why back home you learn both. Um, yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah, I remember that very vividly, and it wasn't until my babies were born that he would teach them things out in the open. Like he would draw things in the sand, and he would teach them. He would take their little hand and touch it and say the word, and then they remember all that. But that was illegal. So
Hmm.
it's kind of interesting just how much of everyone's language really still has that like indigenous influence without meaning to you know so it's kind of
You
it's
Yeah.
know,
kind of
the,
fun.
the Navajo, the Navajo truth speakers, they're the ones that won. I think it was at World War II.
Yes, the code
The
talkers, yeah.
code talkers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they won. They won the war, so that tells you something about the power of it. So that's what they were
I
afraid of is the power.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I just put a video on our Telegram page, the Hunters of the Paranormal, of the Code Talkers, and he said that the Navajo Code Talker guy, he said that they were pinned down in Iwo Jima. I think they was pinned down from three sides. The Marines were, and they had a Code Talker with them, and he sent the code back, telling them which hills, like hill A, B, and C, would be the three hills, and he sent the code back, and that code went out, and it took him 20 seconds to read it. And he said if it would have been done in English, it would have taken him 30 minutes. So
Oh,
in
wow.
20 seconds,
Wow.
they were able to
Wow.
get artillery in and take those three hills, take out the sniper nest or whatever, wherever they were at. But on that video, he actually speaks what they said in the code, and how he didn't tell you how they decipher it, but he tells you what the words were that they said. And in one of the words was like onion, deer, something else, bear, or something else, and it all had a code to it, and
Wow.
that's how they were able to do it. But he said it only took them 20 seconds, and it would have took the others 30 minutes to be able to code it out in English.
Oh, I believe it. I believe
Yeah,
I mean, English is such a mix of other languages anyway, that it's kind of interesting. Like, it takes me so much longer to say it in English than I can do it in any other language, really. So it's kind of
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Like they talk about in the Bible, they talk about the Tower of Babel and how everybody spoke one
Yes.
language at one time. So does
Hmm.
that mean if all these people, like, and then God did whatever he did, and it broke them up into different languages? So
Hmm.
if that was the case, then at one specific point in time, we had one language and we would have had maybe one religion.
Oh,
But once
yeah.
that broke up, then now you've got your Buddhists, your Hindus,
Hmm.
your Muslims, your
Hmm.
Christians, and maybe it's all a part of a collective whole. Does that make sense?
Oh,
They gave
yeah,
us all half
Like
absolutely.
truths.
like everything was scattered to the winds, the four corners of the earth or whatever, and now,
Wow.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've
Actually,
often thought about that. I don't know if like everything is a puzzle piece.
oh,
Like
absolutely.
the reincarnation part of the Buddhist, and then
Hmm.
the spirit in Christians, where we go to heaven or whatever. But
Right.
it's yeah. So
That is wild. I mean, I love that. My great great grandma used to liken all of us to grains of sand, and she would say to me that I was like a grain of sand, which meant that I would go wherever the wind blew, at the time.
Hmm.
And it just meant that I wasn't afraid to like see new places and learn new things.
Float like
Where
a
she would, huh?
float like a feather.
Yeah, yeah, I guess you're right. But but she would talk about herself though as like the roots. She was the roots that always called me home. Does that make sense? So that kind of
Yes.
expression is still kind of out there, you know,
He was the spine of your feather and
yeah,
the string.
you know who, you know, that was another thing. And then I'll stop talking so y'all can talk too. But my grandpa would call me um uh, the sun child because I was brown like him and his great you know grandma, like all the way down. You could tell that we're indigenous. But my sister is so fair that he said she was a moon child because she was so fair. And go figure, you know, like just very interesting and simplified ways to say something that can take like someone forever in a different language to describe. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Mm.
It's just something I think about.
Can I throw something out there too, Lisa?
Yeah.
You know how like in the Africans have the dark skin, and the
Yes.
Native Americans have the red skin, so they are people of the sun, right? So like they're the
Yes.
indigenous people that are used to being on the surface, but then the light skinned people, like over in England and you know that region of the world, maybe they were
Hmm.
the cave, maybe they were the
Right.
cave dwellers
Oh yeah, I could see
because
that.
they don't have the pigment in their
Right.
skin
That makes
Well,
sense. I could
yeah.
see that.
because
Think about
in
it.
a
Think about
yeah
it. People south of the equator are dark skinned. People north,
Hmm. Hmm.
light skinned.
yeah mm-hmm
Canada and
mm-hmm
you name it. You go to South
Yeah.
America, Africa.
Yeah.
You know, you're closer to the sun. You're
so
gonna
you're
have
staying
a
indoors more
projection.
yeah
Right. Right. I mean,
yeah
there's actually fair-skinned indigenous people, the Métis people in Canada. They're very fair, but all their features are still very much like you can tell that they're indigenous. You know what I mean? So
oh
that's
yeah
interesting too. But they're close up there to the North Pole, right? Or that
mm,
whole you know environment that's very different than ours. I
yeah
mean,
Yeah.
yeah
that's
but here's
interesting.
another thing to think about, like the Eskimos, like that are up in the North Pole, they still have the
Hmm.
dark skin.
Yes.
They still have a darker skin, but the
Right.
other people over in Europe, they have the light pale skin.
Isn't
It's
that crazy? But
Mhm.
yeah, actually,
yes.
I learned something fairly not recently, but recently enough. So Eskimo was an anglicized word. Their actual name, they are Inuit, but
Yeah.
when there's one of them, they're Inuk. So I learned that from another indigenous woman who taught me that because
I
I did not
I
know
don't
that.
know
That
a
was
lot more
also
than you do, but I was
You,
right.
at the Kodiak Island where
Oh
those
yeah,
people are.
yeah. Yeah. And
do you know?
I want. Uh huh.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, you know, about that part, and then and the whole way that I came about that information was I did not realize that there were that another thing that we do is the breath of life. And ages ago explorers called that the Eskimo kiss, where they rub
Oh,
their
okay.
noses together. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But that's actually not true. It's called the breath of life, and what you do is you put your foreheads together, and
Hmm.
if you love someone um, and you trust them, they're you know they're like family, you take a deep breath. It's like you're inhaling their scent, you know, and they
Mm-hmm.
do the same for you, and it's so you're kind of breathing the same air. So that's called the breath of life. And so no noses rubbing at all. So
Huh.
that's how I learned that.
That's
Interesting.
interesting.
Yeah. And I do that with it's hilarious because the horses and all the animals know how to do it. So the horses when they see me coming, they naturally bow their heads at me so we can put our heads together and do the breath of life, which is kind of cool and also kind of like, stop trying to be people, or am I being a horse? What are we doing?
Probably
Really
both.
cool. Probably
Do you
both. I
know?
agree with you.
Do you know, Lisa, anything about the indigenous people of Hawaii and
Yes.
how they used to keep the soft spot of the babies on the top of their head? That soft spot they tried to keep. They like put something on their heads or done something to where they would keep that soft spot soft as long as they could. And they said that when the first English people came to
Mhm.
Hawaii, that the children were so intelligent they could pick up the language just like in a matter of no time, they were just super intelligent. They couldn't believe how intelligent that they were, and they attributed it to the soft spot, that leaving that soft spot soft on their head.
Mhm. I
Had you
believe it.
heard that?
I've heard a lot of things like that. I also heard like the reverse of that, which is a lot of indigenous babies are put inside a, like, we'll call them a papoose
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, but it flattens the back of your head. And the Aztecs like to slope their foreheads really far back, and so there was a movement so that you wouldn't get in trouble with the government, which was to not do those things. So your baby had a perfectly round head, and so they wouldn't know that you were of indigenous descent. So that's interesting. Yeah, they've said they stopped doing all those things. Um, so it's
It's really
really
hard to do the
interesting.
round
Uh
head
huh.
thing in China right now.
What?
The Chinese people in China, that's their new fad. They're trying to make perfectly round baby heads in China.
Yeah. Well, they have they leave their babies a lot on their back, I think, and that contributes to um to making
Wow.
the flat back. But and one reason that I was told that all of us indigenous people were able to pick up languages faster was because we held no preconceived notions about anybody. Like
Yeah.
we were open and willing to learn, so it was like that's kind of where the whole thing, kids are like sponges and they learn languages easy, and I think that's where that came from.
Like the other day,
Yeah.
Andrew said pumpkin, and I'd only said it like 3 or 4 times, and he looked at the pumpkin and he said pumpkin, and then he said it in Cherokee, and I went, I don't even remember
Yay.
what pumpkin means in Cherokee right now. But he
I
said it, and I
love
was
it.
like, oh my God,
I
he's
love it.
listening.
He is. They do. The ear is also trained to follow those sounds and to want to know what they say. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
it's um it's wild. Also, I wanted to apologize. If you hear any growling or barking, it's my bunny rabbit who's currently trying to fight me for supremacy over the chair I'm sitting
Oh,
in.
I
Yeah,
I hate to
yeah.
do it too, but I have got to go because I have an early day tomorrow, and it's not that late, but it's getting late for me. I
Oh
apologize,
yeah.
everybody. I have to go.
No, no,
Oh,
no.
that's
This has
okay.
been a lot of fun. I mean, I probably should go too. I've been up since forever too with the kids and the
Yeah.
animals, and I have to do it all again tomorrow.
Well, I really,
everybody,
really enjoyed it, and I hope we
Oh,
get to
look
do
at
it
the
again
puppy.
soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
look at the puppy.
I'd like to do this again too, guys. I appreciate it. Uh,
Oh, absolutely. I had a
Thank you guys.
blast.
I
Love
did
it.
too. Do you guys care if I post this on YouTube?
Not at
No,
all.
no, sir. Go for it.
Okay, I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
We definitely will do this again. This is awesome. We had some really good conversation here.
oh yeah.
Yeah, we did.
You really kept us
See,
going there.
yes.
It's great.
Lisa's
See,
got you got a ton of
Very-
knowledge.
I
Oh,
love talking.
Exactly. And we've been
Tracy
saying
says
that.
that too. Yeah.
We just haven't had time to squeeze you in. I knew it would be a matter of time.
Yeah, I like it like this when we're just talking, just friends talking, like we
Exactly.
always do,
Like
Hmm.
exactly. Just like out there on the table and having fun, and we can make jokes every now and then, and not
Yeah,
be a bunch of sour. Not be a bunch of sour pusses.
you got it. You
Pardon my
got it.
French, but that's what it's all about.
You got it. I had a lot of fun, and I hope we get to repeat it
Us too.
sometime
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
of
soon.
course.
yeah.
Yeah,
You're
We'll
welcome
do that.
anytime.
that's great.
Y'all have a good evening. And good
You
night.
too.
You too.
Y'all supported us from the get go. Any last shout outs, everybody? I
Nope.
always shout out Vic Cundiff and Kat Hansen for Tracy.
Cat. Yeah, Cat
So,
is
Kat,
awesome.
I'll try to text Kat. We want her on the show.
Lisa and Tracy they're already here. And then
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
always
you
give
guys.
shout out to our truth seekers out there that are still listening and what it's all
Sure.
about. And then
Absolutely.
that's about it. Oh, Steve Nadal, the ones that basically opened the doors for us and to get the
You got it.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you, Tracy, for coming on here. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Lisa.
I'll chat with you later, Trace.
All right.
Later.
All
Adios.
right. Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.
See you, Lisa. Good talking
Bye.
to you.
Likewise. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, y'all.
Good night, everybody. Hey, David, you want to do our Zulu war chant on the way out?
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Hey, good talking to you, buddy. Fort Worth Phantom and Ghost
Yes,
Leak
sir.
Hunter. Man, we had some good guests tonight on the show. Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Here we go, David. You ready? Oh, before hey, before we do the Zulu, how about this, David?
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
Oh, here we go, David. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Stand up, everybody. It's time to stand up. Wake up. There's more to this world than meets the eye, right? Oh, yeah. Awesome. Thank you, David, for putting all this.
Every time.
Thank you for putting all this together tonight, David. We had a heck of a show.
No problem, man.
Awesome.
You have a blessed night, brother.
You too. Good night, buddy.
Good night, bro.
Good night, everybody. Good night, David.
Good night, sir.